So I asked you this question about what a geologist does, so I thought maybe it would be a good time to give you some answers. We already said that geology is about the interaction between people and the processes that shape the Earth. So when a geologist looks at the Earth, they really ask this question: how did it get to look the way that it does today? And then, in terms of really showing the impact with people, we want to know what will happen to it in the future so that we can plan and make decisions appropriately. That gives us this basic lens for thinking about geology that we'll use in this course. Scientists are using evidence to understand how the Earth works, and they're very carefully examining that evidence to get better understanding. The important thing about that understanding is it's going to guide decision making. But the problem is, for most of us as citizens, we aren't the scientists. So how do we get information about that evidence and about that understanding? We get it through the media. And the media can misrepresent the evidence or the understanding, whether they're trying to or not. So let me give you some examples of how that works in our course. We'll go through the different topics that we're going to discuss one by one to give you a sense of where we're going in the class. So here's a scary looking dinosaur. You can see it's got these interesting patterns and colors on its skin, these bright yellow eyes, this pink tongue sticking out. But how do we know that that's what this dinosaur actually looked like? No humans were ever around to see one in person. Today, all we see is something like this. So geologists have to learn to look into the past by reading layers of rock like pages of a history book. That's the evidence they use to find out what dinosaurs were like when they lived. And they use the same type of evidence to figure out how they died. Those are topics that we're going to explore in this course through 3 movies: the famous Jurassic Park movie, and then 2 documentaries. Our next topic is going to be volcanoes. If you could get this close to every volcano, they wouldn't be able to make disaster movies about them. So why is it that you can get so close to this volcano? But the people on the right here, they lived near the base of a volcano in Italy and were buried alive by hot ash when it erupted. So almost 2,000 years later, people still go there to visit this place and see the destruction. The good news is that today we can monitor volcanoes and detect warning signs that will hopefully allow us to get out alive. That's the premise of 2 movies that we're going to be watching with handsome volcano scientists. But it's also the fact that kept the casualty count low in the eruption that's shown on the left side here back in 1991. Other geologic disasters, however, occur without warning. Earthquakes are our next topic, and that's what happened here more than 20 years ago at CSUN, and it could happen again at any time. We'll look at the causes of earthquakes to see if earthquake prediction is possible, and then we'll figure out ways that we can minimize their effects regardless. We'll be using 3 movies, 2 dramatic ones showing their effects, and 1 documentary. During the next block of time, we'll visit Extreme Makeover LA. If you had been here about 110 years ago, you might have seen vegetation that looks like this on the left side. It's very dry here. So how do we get the water to keep everything so green and beautiful? You may know that we pipe it in, but where does the water come from? Will it always be there, and will it be safe to use? Answering these questions requires knowing why it rains in some places but not in others, and where the water goes after it rains, and then of course what people do to alter that. Understanding how the water cycle works helps us figure out where to go to get water that we need. We'll be watching 1 classic movie that reveals something about the history of LA's water project and the intrigue surrounding it, and then we'll be watching a documentary that might shed even more light on that same topic. Later we'll watch Aaron Brockovich, the dramatic movie that talks about water contamination. Our last topic in the course deals with how we get our energy. Now, geology plays a big role in that. A new technology called hydraulic fracturing is allowing oil and gas companies to get more natural gas out of the ground than ever before. And people say that using this technique, we'll be able to extract enough oil and gas from below the ground to satisfy our energy needs in the US without ever importing it from Middle Eastern countries. The political and financial changes are unbelievable. But there's an important question. Is it safe? And this is an actual picture from Texas. Here's a subdivision where people live, families and children. And right next door, toxic chemicals are being pumped into the ground as part of this process. Is that safe? The people on the left don't think so. They've been protesting around the world against this procedure called fracking. The people on the right, however, are protesting also, focusing on the economic benefits and wants their state to allow fracking. So both groups can certainly make attractive and witty signs, but do they know what they're talking about? Geology can help us figure out the possible risks and rewards of fracking so that we Geology can help us figure out the possible risks and rewards of fracking so that we can make informed decisions as citizens. Fracking is coming to California with protests around the state and even here on campus at CSUN. Will you support fracking or the protesters? We'll watch 3 movies that will help get you the geologic understanding you need to decide. This controversy is a great example of the 3 steps I told you about that tie the course together. Scientific evidence tells us about the safety of fracking, which is going to help with our decision making. But it's hard to tell what's going on because all the people giving us the information have an agenda. The media lens makes it hard to tell how to go from understanding to decisions. So without further ado, let's get started.